Okay, let's talk about one of the biggest challenges any leader faces: building that perfect, unstoppable A-team. In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into how you can go beyond just what's on a resume to find people who will genuinely make your whole organization better. So let's get right into it. You've been there, right? You get this perfect resume, the interview goes flawlessly, you think, this is the one, and you make the hire. But a couple of months down the line, something just feels off. They're clashing with the team, they don't quite get the culture, and their performance isn't what you expected. It's a super common and really expensive mistake. So why does this keep happening?
Well, the answer is all about looking past the what and really digging into the how. You see, skills tell you what a person can do, but their values, that tells you how they're going to do it. And that's the real difference maker between just filling a role and finding someone who's going to help push the entire team forward.
Now, before we get to the solution, we really have to understand the stakes here. Let's take a look at what a bad hire actually costs, because I guarantee you it's a lot more than just their salary.
A bad hire sends ripples through the whole company. Seriously, think about it. It's not just the paycheck. It's all the wasted hours and training, the hit your team's morale takes, projects getting derailed, and then, of course, the massive headache of having to start the whole recruitment process over again. Those costs add up, and they add up fast.
So how do you avoid these incredibly costly mistakes? Well, the key is to define your North Star. You need a set of core values that will act as a guide, a true north, for every single hiring decision you make from now on. And let's be super clear, we are not talking about some fluffy, feel-good words that you stick on a poster in the break room. In this context, your core values are a practical, powerful tool. Think of them as a filter that you run every candidate through, making sure they truly align with the heart and soul of your company.
Here's a great way to think about it. Without a compass, you're basically just adrift. You might find a candidate with amazing skills, a really strong rower. But what if they're paddling in a completely different direction? Your company values are that compass, making sure every new person you bring on board is rowing toward the exact same destination.
This is where the rubber really meets the road. It's one thing to say you value collaboration, but you have to define what that actually looks like day to day. As you can see here, it translates into real observable actions, like someone who goes out of their way to share what they know, or actively looks for different points of view. This is how you turn a vague idea into something you can actually measure when you're hiring.
Okay, so you've defined your compass. Now, how do you actually use it to navigate the hiring process? Let's break down the practical steps to put these values into action. We're going from theory to practice.
It really boils down to 3 key stages. First, you've got to weave your values right into the job descriptions to attract the right kind of people from the get-go. Second, you design interview questions that are built to test for those values. So instead of asking, how do you manage projects, you could ask, tell me about a time a project went completely off the rails. What did you do to take ownership of that situation? See the difference? And finally, you have to know your non-negotiables, the behaviors that are absolute deal breakers. Each step is like a finer and finer filter in the process. And just look at the difference this makes in something as simple as a job description. Manages projects is so generic. It tells you nothing about how they do it. But drives projects with a high degree of ownership and accountability, wow, that does so much more. It shouts your culture from the rooftops and acts like a beacon for candidates who have that same proactive mindset.
Values like integrity, innovation, and accountability are popular for a reason. They're incredibly powerful foundations. But the real magic isn't just picking the word. The key is to define exactly what each of these means for your team and for your specific mission.
Getting that right person in the door is a huge win, but believe it or not, the work isn't over. To really build a high-performing team, you have to make sure those values stick around long after that offer letter is signed.
You know, it's so tempting to think the job is done at this point, isn't it? You found the perfect, value-aligned person. Mission accomplished. But stopping here is a big mistake. All that hard work you just did can completely fall apart if those values aren't reinforced from day one.
Here's the big takeaway for this section. A value-based culture isn't created in the interview room. It's built and it's maintained every single day after that. Real alignment takes continuous, intentional effort from absolutely everyone on the team. And this is how you make it happen. You bake your values into your onboarding process right from the start. Your leaders have to live and breathe these values. They have to model them. You create programs that recognize and reward people for value-driven behavior. And you have to check in on your values regularly to make sure they're still the right ones. It's all about making your values visible in everything you do.
So, after putting in all this effort, you need to be able to answer one really important question. How do you know if any of this is actually working? Well, this is the ultimate test. The end game, the real goal here, is to build a team that operates from a shared foundation of beliefs and behaviors. It's a workplace where the culture isn't just something you talk about in meetings, but something every single person actively contributes to and protects. That's when you know. That's when you've built your A-team.
So I'll leave you with this final question. This is the ultimate litmus test for your entire hiring strategy. Take a hard look at your team and your process, and ask yourself honestly, are we consistently attracting people who truly live our core values? The answer to that question could change everything.